To everyone's shock, sharks fell crazily from the sky. Terrified citizens found themselves in an unprecedented disaster, desperately trying to escape. Those who couldn't pedal fast enough were instantly crushed into pulp by the sharks. In just one morning, the entire city had fallen. Fortunately, at this moment, our protagonist, Chang, made a dazzling entrance. He rallied citizens to fight against this airborne crisis. Soon, people grabbed weapons to fight back. Some stabbed sharks with barbecue forks, others fired submachine guns, and some even swung watermelon knives at the sharks, ignoring their safety. Chang was even more heroic, soaring into the air with a chainsaw, unstoppable in his path. Clearly, knowing the director makes all the difference. Meanwhile, the news anchor queen also showed her astonishing strength, subduing an invading shark with a single kick. But the disaster was far from over. The sharks quickly formed a terrifying sharknado, and the city was on the verge of collapse. Xiao Shuai hurriedly tied a bomb to a slingshot, pulled the rubber band back with all his might, and with a whoosh, several flying sharks were instantly blown to pieces. However, when Xiao Shuai and his companions saw this modest result, they couldn't feel happy at all, because to completely wipe out these billions of sharks, they would have to increase their firepower even more. Sensing the danger, the sharks immediately turned around and launched an attack on the two. But the black woman was already prepared. She drew her sword and with a single slash of the sharks in the sky, instantly decapitated several of them. However, just as the two were about to launch another bomb at the tornado, they unexpectedly turned the sharks into flaming sharks with the explosion. The onlookers below didn't even have time to react before they were smashed into meat patties on the spot. Seeing that the two sharknadoes were about to merge, Xiao Shuai realized that only by unleashing their ultimate move could they stop this disaster. So he took a chainsaw and cut open the door to the power distribution room, then connected a 100,000-volt cable from inside, planning to use it to electrocute all the sharks in the tornado. But just as he was about to start, he realized the cable was actually too short. With no other choice, the black woman had to go back and use her own body as a conductor to reconnect the wires. As Xiao Shuai pressed the wire end onto the chainsaw, both of them were instantly blasted into the sky by a surge of energy, successfully stopping the tornado. With the tornado's sharp protection gone, the sharks inside finally began to fall down in droves. The crowd below saw this. Not only did the crowd not run away, but they actually picked up their weapons and rushed into the streets, launching a frenzied slaughter against the falling sharks. Some people poured gasoline into their water guns, switched them to flamethrower mode, and made the sharks pay with their lives. The little fishman wasn't to be outdone either. He pulled out a javelin and started taking down the sharks himself. A decisive battle between sharks and humans broke out right on the streets of New York. At that moment, an old man nearby, unwilling to be left behind, immediately pulled a handheld chainsaw from his trunk, turned it on, and threw it straight into the tornado. With the help of the sharp blade, the chainsaw began automatically clearing out the sharks. On the other hand, Chang's situation was far from optimistic. He now had to find a place to land in order to stay alive. In this critical moment, he managed to land on a giant shark, and using a piece of debris he had conveniently picked up, he began to steer the shark's direction. Relying on his own ingenuity, he finally managed to drive the shark straight into the spire of the skyscraper. Thanks to this, the man survived, and the crowd who witnessed the scene were genuinely moved and overjoyed. Although Chang and the blonde woman successfully reunited, the terrifying sharknado was far from over. Without hesitation, the man immediately thrust his arm into the nearby shark's mouth, and pulled out an old-fashioned pistol, firing shot after shot at the oncoming sharks. With the last shark finally brought down, the crisis was at last resolved.